Here we go. Game 2 in this best of 3 series between FXOmOoNan and FXOqxc going to be taking place here on GSL Crevasse. mOoNan already down 1 game to his friend and teammate, his Terran practice partner there, QXC, and if you didn't know already, you are watching the SoundBlaster Tactic3D Pro-Am tournament. This is the pro portion of the tournament, our first round, our first series actually, and that is hosted by Complexity Gaming, presented by Fry's Electronics, and cast by me. I'm AskJoshy from YouTube, and with me today and all day long is JP McDaniel from State of the Game and MLG. That first game on Shakira's Plateau is pretty good. What do you think is going to happen here on Crevasse, JP?
Well, I would imagine that it's just going to be more of the same. I mean, TVT, there are some things that you can do to kind of step outside the boundaries of standard play, but I think both these players aren't really known for doing anything like that. And also I want to state that if you've never heard of mOoNan before, he had the name All About You for quite some time, so maybe you know All About You and you don't know mOoNan. Well, they're actually the same person, so just a little bit of player trivia, so to speak. You can use that on your friends and try to outdo them in the biggest nerd contest.
If you ask your friend, hey, do you know what mOoNan used to be called, and they say no, then you are superior at StarCraft 2 in every way. Go. But another little piece of trivia about FXOmOoNan, back in Brood War, he actually won a Courage tournament. And
is this true?
That is incredibly amazing. Liquid Tyler actually got 1 series away from winning a Courage tournament himself when he went over to South Korea, but this guy, mOoNan, FXOmOoNan, has actually done what Tyler could not. So this guy, not to be messed with. His Brood War career was very, very good, and here in StarCraft 2, he's been making a name for himself more and more recently. All About You did play at MLG Dallas 2010, didn't quite live up to his expectations, but he hasn't slowed down at all, and here he is going to try and fight back against his teammate QXC, who does have some very nice StarCraft 2 tournament experience. He's got second place at the North American Championships, IEM, last year. He's been showing up to MLGs and all sorts of other events, and it's actually been recently announced that he's going to be heading over to South Korea as part of FXO's team in the GSTL. Did you know that? That's a recent announcement.
I did not, but that's great to hear. It's really good to hear that. So I guess that was the news that was being teased to me the past couple of days, and I had no idea what was going on. But it looks like both players are just going to open up with an early command center right after that first Drax, and from here we have QXC already adding on 2 gas, mOoNan only adding on 1 gas. There goes the second one right after that depot's finished up. So definitely in for a macro-oriented game, or at least a 2-base-oriented game from both of these players.
Yep, and actually mOoNan getting up 2 gas pretty quickly. Actually QXC doing it as well. Both of them working off of just 1 Rex still. I think QXC is probably going to be trying to do that Hellion sort of switcheroo, the little drop tactics and things like that, just because it was working out for him so well on Shakira's Plateau, and this is another really good map for drops. You've got basically 3 tiers of elevation right here at each player's main, that low ground, mid ground where your main is, and the high ground there for that third base. Drops can be very, very effective on this little third base, so mOoNan actually sort of drawing the short straw here, having his natural be between these 2 players. QXC can take advantage of that if mOoNan doesn't put up a bunch of turrets or keep his units spread well, but so far nothing too crazy is happening. Still just 2 racks for mOoNan. There is that factory from QXC, so Hellion's most likely going to be a part of his build order after all.
Yeah, another thing really you got to consider is the fact that QXC is very drop oriented in most of his matchups, definitely in his TVZ, and also we saw last game him open up with a drop strategy of some sort. So when looking at the map, he is spawning here at the top portion of the map, and his opponent is spawning down here in the south. So this natural expansion of mOoNan is very susceptible to drops, whereas the main base and natural base of QXC is going to have to require mOoNan to go really far out of his way to make sure that those drop ships are not seen. So just something to note as the game progresses forward. We do have starports for both players going down right now. No tanks just started yet. They're probably just going to continue to get a ton more SCVs and make sure that their defenses are nice and set up in case an attack comes early from their opponent.
Yeah, and actually, we might see some drops out of QXC after all. It looks like he is moving toward the middle a little bit here, just trying to clear out those Xel'Naga towers. This Marine for mOoNan has nowhere to run, but since QXC just has pretty good map vision right now. mOoNan actually holding that other Xel'Naga tower at the top. He could actually sneak in a medevac or two while he's in control there of that Xel'Naga tower, and it looks like he is going up to that top one to clear that up as well. mOoNan sees it, of course, with plenty of time, and flees with his very injured Marine.
QXC starting Banshees and Cloak at the same time, obviously, so you can get 2 of those out before Cloak finishes, or just start harassing with one of them, which a lot of players just started doing. mOoNan already in position. I think he might have seen that with a scan. No, he did not, so maybe he just suspects drop play or Banshee play is coming, so he has a ton of Marines at his natural expansion. And going and looking around the main base of mOoNan, he's already started his siege tank. Hasn't started siege tank just yet. He's actually ramping up to take a third very early on here.
Yeah, and I do like to see that. It basically means he's going to secure himself a mid-game. There's really not a whole lot that QXC can do about it either. He doesn't have that many fighting units on the field just yet. He is going to be hoping to do a lot of damage here with this first cloaked Banshee, but mOoNan, obviously, he's got his own Terran timings. He knows when these things sort of arrive. He's got his own starport up. He knows that this is a possibility, and here comes that first Banshee. Now there's already a Viking in place for mOoNan, so he's just going to repel it immediately before Cloak gets finished here.
Yeah, and that's got to be really annoying for QXC. Some Marines have been pulled. That Banshee will not die, of course, but thus far he's going to have to wait for Cloak for sure. He actually, did he cancel it? No, he did not. I thought he might have canceled it upon seeing that Viking, but he could do some harassment, but now the missile turret is going down, so it's going to be very, very hard to get in there, do some damage to those SCVs, especially when you can be spotted by that turret and the Viking. So here comes the repaired Banshee. He cloaks immediately after taking a volley from that Viking. Now the missile turret is in place. Isn't going to even get a shot off onto those SCVs, and it does not look like it.
Yeah, I don't know what QXC is actually going to be able to do with either of these Banshees. The first one, obviously, going to be repelled by those Marines and that turret there at the natural, taking a few shots at an orbital command. QXC did find a little bit of a sweet spot with that other Banshee on the right side, killed a couple of Marines. There's no detection in that area, and actually picks off an SCV and another Marine. So mOoNan actually is doing a drop up here in QXC's natural at the same time, but it gets shut down completely because he just wasn't paying that much attention. One siege tank cleared up that entire drop from mOoNan. So these Banshees still trying to do their damage. QXC is going to lose the one at the natural, but the one in the main now has 8 kills, and actually is going to pick up a 9th here before being repelled. mOoNan does have enough energy for a scan, and does finally finish off that Banshee, but not before losing a ton of units from that little assault. So QXC has to be happy with what he's done so far. He actually repelled an attack while doing a lot of damage in mOoNan's base, but both players still relatively even on supply count, and QXC has the very large harvester count right now, 10 more harvesters than his teammate mOoNan. Here's another Cloak Banshee, no detection in the area still, but a scan does go down, and it is taken out quite quickly.
Yeah, QXC definitely playing a little bit from behind right now. His command center is about to finish there, so he's going to obviously secure a third here very soon as he is moving out with his tanks and Marines, probably just to set up a defensive position. But mOoNan looks like he is actually on the move here for an attack. His third has been up for quite some time. He doesn't actually have the supply lead, though, which is kind of interesting to note. But here he goes, actually going into the fight. He does have the bigger army in sense of resources devoted to that. He's got about 500 more minerals to it and 200 more gas. So he's not really sure if he wants to attack here. QXC's going to use this Banshee to scout out exactly what's going on. Actually losing it, forgot to cloak. So he's a little bit upset about that. A scan does go down right on top of mOoNan's army. QXC wants to advance his siege tanks up just a little bit. mOoNan did not want to move up whatsoever, so he just immediately sieged. Now he's going to unsiege and probably reposition. This is exactly what I was talking about in Game 1, how Terran versus Terran is a very tedious matchup. It's very kind of slow, methodical play in the fact that you want to place your siege tanks exactly where they can harass and hit the other opponent's army, but be out of range of their own siege tanks. And now we just kind of have this big standoff right at this ramp leading up from QXC's third.
Yeah, and mOoNan actually sieging up all the way across there. If he does have the range, no, he's just barely out of range to actually hit QXC's tanks, but QXC is still floating around with that Banshee. I hear QXC destroying these destructible rocks over here on the top side. Not sure what is going to happen with that, but the Banshee is chased away and not killed. Close one there. Oh, and it does get picked off, but yeah, just mOoNan containing QXC, back at home. He's trying to get up more production facilities. He does have his third base up and running. He wants to catch up on that harvester count and actually has done a good job so far. He's only down by 5 harvesters now, and QXC really can't do a whole lot here. It is that Viking tank war that we've remembered so fondly from the beta and early release, where every TVT sort of devolved into this. QXC, it's going to be on him to actually try and keep pressure going with this Banshee. Perhaps wants to maybe do another hit at mOoNan's base, but mOoNan slips up and actually runs forward with all those Marines, losing quite a lot of them.
Yeah, that definitely was not good for mOoNan. He lost probably about half of those Marines, but here come a ton more, as well as a couple more tanks. This one Banshee, although it may not seem like the biggest annoyance, but a couple scans, 3 or 4 now, have gone down just to kill those Banshees. And now QXC does have 2 tanks that are able to hit these tanks of mOoNan. He does indeed take that out. And now we just have yet another standoff. If we look at supply, it's 148 for QXC, 138 for mOoNan. QXC has taken down those destructible rocks, and he might actually move some Marines around that way. QXC losing a bunch of tanks right now as he does try to move up, taking out 2, I think. Here comes another Banshee, though, so another scan will have to be used as it's going to start picking off these tanks of mOoNan.
Maybe. It's just chilling now. But, oh, QXC actually had a command center repelled at that top middle expansion, the 12 o'clock position, by a single Marine. And there goes that Banshee getting taken out again by mOoNan. So he is on top of the scans. He realizes he's not going to be able to drop any mules for a while. But QXC is mobilizing his Marines now. Well, I thought he was going to try and loop around and maybe try and break this contain, but he just keeps losing units here. mOoNan is actually up by almost 30 supply now as a result of this slow creep forward into QXC's third.
Yeah, and he's actually starting to take the map. We have an expansion over on the right side of the map and a second command center already at his third base. He actually is just producing so much more than QXC. If you look at the production tab right now, almost half the bar, so to speak, is for mOoNan, excuse me, and then about 3 for QXC. In the meantime, we have more attacks here, and I think this might be kind of the death blow, as now a ton of Marines are moving in, and QXC is somewhat out of place. A couple tanks are being unsieged for mOoNan. If he can get those sieged and in place, he's going to do a ton of damage to these Marines. And if we look at the upgrades, I think, okay, both players are at 1-1, so that doesn't really matter. No one has the upgrade advantage. That Orbital Command got down to about 300 HP before getting repaired. QXC doing his best to try to stay in this, but now he's confined to 2 bases. He does have another command center floating right around his natural, and he's going to try to land that, but there's a Marine in place to make sure that it cannot land until someone goes and kills it.
Yep, and so QXC slowly getting strangled, getting constricted here, kept inside of his main by his teammate mOoNan. mOoNan doing such a good job, being careful not to lose too many units, and now QXC just doesn't have enough tanks, really, to continue a tank Viking war, and mOoNan still has double-digit numbers here. He's not even going to siege up. He's just going to roll right in, blasting the heads off of those Marines. SCVs just hiding, waiting, and yeah, there was no way QXC could continue this game after losing so much ground there at his third. So mOoNan is going to force a game 3 here. Excellent for him and excellent for us. We get to go watch another great TVT. Let's see which map QXC picks. I am actually going to restart the stream with a slightly different quality setting just so the people experiencing lag can maybe get a little bit more smooth stream. Here we go.